After losing my husband right after getting married, I raised Rick on my own. One day, Rick introduced his fiancée, Molly, to me. In front of Rick, she pretends to be sweet, but when we're alone, she looks down on me and does whatever she wants. Feeling uneasy about letting him marry such a woman, the day of the family meeting arrived. Molly and her parents, meeting us at a private dining room in a top-tier hotel, smirked at me for some reason. After a while, my appetizer still hadn't arrived. Molly's mother said to me as I tilted my head in confusion. "You don't have a serving." What? Poor people wouldn't understand French cuisine anyway. Exactly. If we let a high school dropout eat here, it would ruin the restaurant's reputation. Molly and her parents smirked nastily in unison. Come on, Rick, let's eat. Let's enjoy the feast with our new family. Rick sighed and said, Mom, let's go home. Yes. As Rick looked sad, I clenched my fists on my lap. I can't forgive this. If they think I'll stay quiet forever, they're very wrong. I am Sophia Keller, a 50-year-old housewife. I raised my son Rick on my own. That's because my husband suddenly passed away from an illness in the 4th year of our marriage. My parents are still alive but live in a rural area and stay with my brother and his wife, making it hard to rely on them. I couldn't adjust to high school life and dropped out, living as a part-timer afterward. I worried my parents back then, so I don't want to rely on them now. My husband's parents live nearby, but they are elderly, so it's difficult to rely on them. The mortgage was paid off with my husband's life insurance, but we still need savings for Rick's education and my retirement. To survive as just the two of us, I worked tirelessly. Maybe because he grew up watching me work hard, Rick turned out to be an honest and kind boy. Rick eventually got a job and brought his fiancée home. However, my joy at meeting the sweet young lady was short-lived. His fiancée and her parents turned out to be quite the troublemakers. She's beautiful, competent, and an amazing person. She's kind and reliable. She's helped me a lot since we're on the same team. Rick wanted to introduce his fiancée to me. When I asked Rick, what kind of person is she, he answered shyly. With such high praise, my expectations couldn't help but rise. When I finally met her, I understood why Rick liked her. She was demure and lovely. Nice to meet you. I'm Molly Golden. Her graceful demeanor and elegant mannerisms were impressive. Her pink floral dress suited her clear voice and fair skin. She brought a fruit pound cake from a high-end pastry shop as a gift. Oh, I prepared something too. I guess we have the same idea. When I offered Molly banana pound cake and tea while she sat on the living room sofa, she slightly frowned. It's okay. I like it. Rick smiled and encouraged Molly beside him. Mom's sweets are really good. Do you like cooking? I'm only good at making sweets. I smiled and corrected myself. Making sweets during work breaks helps me relax. It's fun. Molly narrowed her eyes. After chatting about how they met at work, Molly looked around the room and cheerfully said, Rick's house is so compact. Yeah, it's small, right? The yard is tiny too. Rick laughed without a care. Mom, Molly's house is a 6-bedroom mansion with a 3,500 square foot lot, a parking space for 5 cars, and a garden that's like a park. Spacious and beautiful. Wow, that's impressive. I couldn't help but voice my admiration. But if it's just me living here, this size is perfect. That's true. Hiring a housekeeper can be a hassle too. As Molly smiled, I asked a question. Is Molly's father the president of the Golden Restaurant Group? Molly's face lit up. Yes, my grandfather was the first president, and my father is his son-in-law. You know a lot. I used to work part-time there. Oh, I see. Molly smiled meaningfully. So, you're a CEO's daughter. Oh no, it's not that grand. She waved her hand cutely in front of her face, being modest. I attended an all-girls school from middle school to university, just like my mother. So? It was hard for me to get used to men when I entered the workforce. Molly's shy smile and gentle tone exuded elegance. She seemed to be the epitome of a well-bred young lady. I wondered if Rick was being expected to become a part of their family. As I was thinking, Rick's phone rang. After checking the caller, Rick excused himself and answered the call. Sorry, but I'm in the middle of a family meeting. Work matters. What? Rick's expression changed. I see. I'll be right there. Wait for me. He hung up and apologized. Sorry, a colleague seems to have made a mistake with a client. Molly, I'll go to the office and come back soon. Can you wait here? Molly briefly widened her eyes but quickly smiled. All right. Be careful. Thanks. I'll be back soon, Mom. Rick left with his work bag and we exchanged vague smiles. Being left alone with someone I just met was challenging, especially in the roles of mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. As I was feeling at a loss, Molly stood up, picked up the tray with tea and pound cake, and asked, "Where do you throw out food waste?" The trash can is in the corner of the kitchen." Ignoring my puzzled look, Molly walked quickly to the kitchen. Suspicious, I followed her and saw her throw my homemade cake into the trash can after stepping on the pedal to open it. She then poured the tea into the sink and roughly placed the empty dishes on the counter. In a cold voice, different from before, she said to my stunned face, "I can't eat something this disgusting." Homemade cake? How tacky. She found the tea package through the glass door of the cabinet and sneered. "Unlike you commoners, I only drink tea that's fit for the British royal family. This cramped house suffocates me, and with this food and drink, I feel like throwing up." She left me in the kitchen, shoulders hunched, and returned to the living room. When I went to the living room a bit later, I saw Molly taking pictures of our interior and sending them to her parents. Hey, Mom and Dad are laughing too. Look. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw the messages on her phone. The sense of style in a commoner's house is hilarious. It's amazing how people can live in such a small house. Can I take pictures of the yard too? It's easy to maintain without a gardener, right? So envious. For a while after that, until Rick returned, Molly continued to mock our lifestyle with glee. It seemed Molly disliked me. She looked down on me because I was a commoner. Despite her mocking us when she visited, Molly seemed serious about marrying Rick and frequently asked me questions. I want to give Rick a watch for his birthday. Does he have a favorite brand? Could you tell me what Rick doesn't like? We're going on a picnic this weekend. I was astonished by her nerve to ask so bluntly, but I didn't want to spoil their relationship, so I kindly answered each time. One day, Molly called me. Rick has been asked to organize his high school reunion. He wants to check his yearbook at home but has an urgent business trip. Could you get it for him? I felt heavy-hearted about her visiting again but agreed. This time, to avoid any complaints, I prepared high-end tea and petit fours from a well-known brand, only to find Molly arriving with her mother. Amy. Nice to meet you, I'm Molly's mother, Amy. Her long permed hair, thick makeup, and strong perfume made her look much younger than someone her age. Molly, why did you bring your mother? I asked curiously, and she answered as if it were the most natural thing. Mom wanted to see a commoner's small house. Sorry for dropping by unannounced. Amy said with a smirk. It's a 4-bedroom house, right? My friends all live in high-rise apartments or luxury residential areas. Listening to Molly made me curious. So I wanted to see a compact house with my own eyes. The thoughtless remark left me speechless. Molly stood beside her mother, smiling brightly. What do these two think a home is? Though it irritated me, refusing would be troublesome. I invited Molly and Amy inside. As expected, they began inspecting my house, disregarding their actual purpose. Without asking for permission, they opened the bathroom, the toilet, and the hallway closets, making comments. Oh, this bath doesn't have a jacuzzi. And it's so small. You can't relax here. Haha, is that so? I forced a smile. This garden is smaller than our entrance hall. Is there any point in having it? If it's too large, it's hard to maintain. Oh, you can't afford a gardener. Well, that makes sense. After mocking everything, Molly and Amy sat in the living room, eating the snacks and cheerfully discussing their impressions. I was horrified at the thought of Rick growing up in a shabby house, but it wasn't as bad as I expected. Really? But it is so cramped. Amy scolded Molly. Well, yeah. But calling it a doghouse is too much. Our Tiffany's room is a little smaller than this. Oh, I see. As Molly and Amy said whatever they wanted, I struggled to contain my anger. After finishing the snacks, they stood up and smiled at me. Thank you for showing us something unique. It was a good way to kill time, Mom. I can't imagine living here, but visiting once in a while might be interesting. I also wouldn't want to live with a daughter-in-law like you. I held back from saying that and forced a smile. I'm glad you liked it. Don't forget Rick's yearbook. Got it. I've got it right here. Molly hugged the yearbook she had taken from Rick's bookshelf and left with her mother. After they left, I sank wearily into the sofa. Fatigue washed over me all at once. Rick, being so straightforward, is probably easily fooled by Molly's charming act. I kept worrying if it was really okay for him to marry someone like her. As days went by, I couldn't bring myself to tell Rick the truth, fearing how hurt he would be if he knew Molly's true nature. One day, Rick contacted me. We want to have the family meeting at the end of the month. How's your schedule, Mom? I'm free on weekends. Any time is fine. Feeling a bit concerned, I asked. Rick, have you already met her mother? Yeah, she was bright and pleasant. I see. It seems both Molly and her parents put on a facade in front of Rick. After hanging up, I soon received a message with the date, time, and name of a top-tier hotel, along with a photo. I made an appointment at the salon and decided to wear a new suit for the occasion. But as the day approached, my anxiety grew. Is it really okay to let my precious son marry someone like that? Her mother also insulted me thoroughly. Her father is probably the same type. To ease my restless mind, I came up with a plan after much deliberation. Finally, the day of the meeting arrived. Rick and I arrived at the restaurant, where Molly was waiting with her parents. Molly looked like a demure young lady at first glance. Her mother, with perfect makeup, exuded an air of elegance. Meeting her father for the first time, I saw a handsome and slender man. He greeted us with a smile, but I'm sure, deep down, he looked down on me. Guided by the hotel staff, we moved to the private dining room. The room was refined and elegant, perfect for a pre-wedding family meeting. Beyond the large windows was a beautiful garden. The meeting started pleasantly, led by her father, but I soon felt uncomfortable. Rick's introductions about our family kept getting interrupted by Molly and her parents. My mother lost my father after 4 years of marriage. She raised me alone after that. That's such a boring story. Look, Mom. Molly raised her hand adorned with the engagement ring, proudly showing it off to her parents. Her parents joined in, laughing and making a fuss. Oh my. That's the engagement ring from Molly's favorite brand. Molly is so loved. Her father crossed his arms and boasted as if it were his achievement. When I had a business meeting with your company, I heard you are a rising star. A department head at your age? I'm so proud. Oh, no, it was just a lucky project recently. Thanks to my mom's advice. Rick tried to be humble, but her mother leaned forward. You are outstanding among the young employees at the headquarters, right? On the fast track to an elite career. Molly, you caught a good one. Right? He graduated from that prestigious university without repeating a year. Rick is a good match for a company president's daughter like me. Her father put his arm around Rick's shoulders and laughed loudly. I think you could be my successor. How about becoming my son-in-law? Rick Golden sounds so cool. Much better than Rick Keller. In other words, he's my son. I've always wanted a handsome and capable son. I'm so happy. As if I didn't exist, Molly and her parents enthusiastically focused on Rick. Why am I even here? Just as I was starting to feel offended, the food arrived. I felt a brief sense of relief, but it quickly vanished. I was shocked to see that The appetizers were placed only in front of Rick, Molly, and her parents. Following that, the soup and fish dishes were served, but there was still an empty space in front of me. "Excuse me, what about my meal?" I asked the staff bringing the bread and soup, but they looked uncomfortable and quickly left. Molly's mother spoke to me as I tilted my head in confusion. "You don't have a serving?" "What? We only ordered for 4. Poor people wouldn't understand French cuisine anyway," she said with a composed face. "That's right. Serving this kind of food to someone with a poor academic background would lower the restaurant's standards." Molly, along with her father, laughed heartily. "Come on, Rick, let's eat. Let's enjoy the feast with our new family." Rick, with a strained face, sighed and said, "Mom, let's go home." "Yes." "Oh, no, Rick. You can't leave. You're the guest of honor." Molly's mother stopped Rick from standing up. "The one who should leave is the lowly educated person over there." "Exactly. The food will taste bad." I clenched my fists on my lap. I can't take this anymore. Though I was hesitant to hurt Rick, I decided to reveal everything. If they think I'll stay quiet forever, they're sorely mistaken. I gave Rick a meaningful look. Rick nodded silently, so I discreetly took out the voice recorder from my bag. On the way to the restaurant, I had told Rick about everything Molly and her mother had done to me. Seeing Rick sit back down, Molly's mother relaxed. "Rick, I'm glad you're staying. You're going to be my son-in-law after all." "Mom, don't get too clingy. Rick is going to be my husband." Molly, annoyed, complained as her mother tried to hug Rick. "It's okay, Molly. Your mother has another favorite, after all." I smiled, and Molly's mother flinched. "What are you talking about?" "Oh, you know what I mean." I placed the voice recorder on the table and pressed the play button in front of Molly and her father. Suddenly, the room, bright with sunlight from the beautiful garden, was filled with loud music and shrill voices. "Harry, stop looking at other women. Hey, you, don't flirt with Harry. He's mine." This was a recording from a VIP club. I mentally cheered as I watched Molly's mother turn pale and continued playing the recording. "Amy, you've had too much to drink. And, the bill. This is the 4th champagne tower this month. I'm happy, but it's fine. My nephew Sam will pick us up." Amy's voice, slurred with alcohol, responded. "My nephew is the CFO, so this month's bill will be covered as a business expense." Having a compliant subordinate is really helpful. No matter how many times I heard it, it never ceased to amaze me that she would blurt out such things in public, even when drunk. When you're obsessed with young men, does your judgment really get this clouded? It's frightening. "I'll buy you an Italian luxury car and a Swiss watch for your birthday next month. So, let's go on another date outside the club." Amy's sickly sweet tone was repulsive. Harry, on the other hand, sounded uncomfortable. "I don't mind dating, but I've been receiving gifts from you almost every week lately. Is that okay?" "Harry, don't hold back." Amy continued in a babyish tone. "I'm the vice president of the Golden Group. I can spend money as I like. I inherited that company from my father." Molly's father's face twitched. The polite smile he wore earlier disappeared, and anger flashed in his eyes. "My husband is the president, but he's just a figurehead because he was adopted into my family. So, the company's money is mine. No one can say anything about it. Is that so?" "Ah, your ride is here." Harry's voice carried a note of relief. "Sorry for the trouble. Let's go, Amy." I turned off the voice recorder. "What is this?" Molly's father asked in a low, angry voice. "You've been going to clubs at your age, almost 60. What a disgrace. I'm still 58. What's wrong with having a little fun?" Amy retorted immediately. "And why do you have this recording?" Rick answered calmly before I could. "Harry is a son of my mom's friend." "What?" Amy's eyes widened. "I heard from a friend that there was an older customer demanding favors in exchange for gifts, which was causing trouble. I recently found out that the older customer was Molly's mother, so I asked Harry to record the conversations. I wanted to have Molly listen to them and warn her mother to stop going to the club. Molly's father's face turned red with anger. He yelled at Amy. If the media gets wind of this, we'll be a laughingstock. Think about your age. Amy twisted her lips into a sneer. You think I don't know? You're doing whatever you want to. What? Molly's father's face twitched. Don't play dumb. You've bought an apartment for your favorite woman and even pay for her living expenses, right? Amy showed her phone, and not only Molly's father and Molly but Rick and I also looked at it. The message read, "Your husband wants to divorce the old lady and marry me, what should I do?" Accompanied by a photo of a man and a woman in bed together. I had someone investigate. You spend half the week in that apartment under the guise of work, and you take this woman on trips on weekends. Saying it's golf. Don't mess with me. Amy threw her phone into the corner of the room and shouted. She, just a cheap woman, is so cocky. And if you have money to waste, give more to me. Who do you think got you to where you are now? Shut up already. Molly's father responded with a thunderous roar. You're always belittling me as a son-in-law. It's not because of you, it's because of your father. Don't act all high and mighty just because you were born into a rich family, it's pathetic. The noise must have reached outside the room. A staff member with a stern face opened the door slightly, assessed the situation, and withdrew. They probably decided that addressing the issue would only escalate the disturbance. The French dishes for four cooled on the table, untouched by anyone. Sorry, Rick. Amidst her parents' fight, Molly said, her shoulders slumped. My parents are like this, but my feelings for you are genuine. Molly gently took Rick's hand, looked up at him with teary eyes, and pleaded in a sweet voice. Please, marry me. Rick smiled awkwardly and replied. Sorry, but I can't. Molly's eyes widened in disbelief. What? Why? Well, you don't actually love me, do you? Rick gave a self-deprecating smile. Oh, Rick, do you want me to say I love you in front of everyone? You're so cute. Molly twisted her body flirtatiously, but Rick firmly replied. You've been hitting on about 10, no, 20 of my coworkers, right? What? No, I haven't. Rick played the recording app on his phone in front of a now pale Molly. Her parents paused their argument to watch. Yes, during overtime, Molly kept insisting on going out with me. She confessed, but when I told her I had a girlfriend, she got angry and said she was a better woman and I should choose her. She invited me on a trip, but when I asked if she was engaged to Rick, she yelled that a little cheating was fine. When I mentioned taking turns caring for my baby with my wife, she pressured me to start an affair, saying it would be a refreshing change. Molly froze as these testimonies played. I told them to stay quiet, but they went to Rick anyway. After a moment of silence, Molly muttered in frustration. A supervisor told me recently that my coworkers were struggling to talk to me about this. So? I listened to them and recorded it to confront you later. Rick continued in a calm tone. Molly, when I first joined the company, you were indifferent to me. But about a year ago, after inviting me to dinner, you started coming on strong. I was happy but also suspicious. That's because I suddenly fell in love with you. That's how love works, right? You were interested in my title. Rick smiled sadly. Even after hearing those testimonies, I still wanted to believe in you. But seeing how you treated my mom today, I've completely lost any feelings I had. Molly's parents, seeing her panic, started yelling. You're terrible at this. Rick is an elite candidate. Marrying him would benefit our company. We told you to seduce him. But Rick is too serious and boring. Molly pouted. I'm cute, so it's fine if I have a little fun. Then go to a VIP club. It's obvious your coworkers would find out. Their misguided conversation made me rub my temples. This whole family is awful. Molly's father turned to Rick and me with a haughty attitude. Don't tell me you're calling off the wedding? Molly's mother looked at Rick earnestly, trying to persuade him. If you marry Molly, we'll not only let you take over our group but also involve you in our new overseas projects. You're highly regarded at the headquarters, right? This is already decided. A smart guy like you wouldn't throw away such a great opportunity, right? Molly also seemed desperate to win Rick over. I'm offering you the important company I inherited from my father. Do you realize how honorable this is? Rick and I exchanged looks and shrugged. Judging by your past actions, it doesn't seem like you care much about the company. What do you mean? Let's say, instead of putting your hand on your heart, it might be quicker if you just listen to this. I placed the voice recorder on the table and resumed the playback from the VIP club conversation. Let's take a break from going to the club, Auntie Amy. No. Harry will be taken by another woman. You can't. Executive Seth is getting suspicious. Sam spoke in a weak voice. If they find out about the embezzlement, you'll be dismissed as vice president. I'll also be fired for covering it up. Don't worry. Our executives are all idiots, they'll never notice. Did you embezzle company funds? Molly's father glared at Amy with a fierce expression, causing her to turn pale. Molly also looked at her mother with a mix of disbelief and disgust. Amy, her face now ashen, turned to glare at me and started shouting. This conversation happened in the car on the way back. How did you get it? Sam recorded it on his own phone. Amy blinked in surprise at my revelation. You knew Sam? No, I got to know another executive through work. I explained to the confused Amy. A while ago, I noticed he looked down, so I asked why. He confessed that Sam had told him about the embezzlement. Amy's eyes widened in shock. They revealed it themselves? So they didn't quit for health reasons. They couldn't bear the guilt. Once the evidence is in place, you'll be dismissed as vice president too. Amy ground her teeth in frustration, while Molly and her father looked on bitterly. Using company money for clubbing, what a fool. Mom, this is terrible. It's going to be my company someday. Shut up. Amy screamed. If you'd let me use money freely, I would have managed within my allowance. It's not my fault, it's yours and the executives. She then glared at Molly and lashed out. Molly is so dumb that we had to find a son-in-law to take over. If left to her, she'd ruin the company in no time. Mom, that's awful. Oh, I see. I clapped my hands in realization, drawing the attention of Molly and her parents. Molly didn't join the company to gain work experience but to find a suitable husband. And what's wrong with that? You, a low-educated poor person, wouldn't understand our struggles. Amy's insults prompted me to respond with a smile. You're right, I don't understand. You have a lot ahead of you, so do your best. The company will probably collapse now that I'm stepping away. How dare you? Who do you think you are? Amy shouted in fury. We have a famous investor backing us. We don't need your pity. Rick then spoke to me with a slight smile. When you took over the company from the previous owner, you were worried about the second generation. You decided to watch over them. Yes, I thought I'd give it some time. But it didn't even last 10 years. I looked around at Molly and her parents and stated firmly. Today's meeting is the last straw. I'm withdrawing my support. What are you talking about? This is about my mom's work. You didn't let us explain during the introductions. Molly's parents exchanged shocked glances. You're joking, right? A lowly educated person couldn't be in a job requiring brains like a trader. You're wrong. I may not have a high school diploma, but I carved out my path with effort. I said sharply. I saved money from part-time jobs to study asset management. Now, I produce content about finance and have published manuals. I operate under a channel name, so only my subscribers know my face. When I showed the video on my phone, Molly and her parents stared at me as if they'd seen a ghost. No way. You mocked me so much, but it looks like I've led a much more decent life than any of you. As I smiled, the three of them shrank back, looking embarrassed. Rick, let's go home. Wait. Molly stopped us. At her signal, her parents bowed their heads to the floor. We're truly sorry for our numerous insults. Rick, please reconsider. Molly clung to Rick's arm, pleading in a sweet, desperate voice. I'll break up with the other boys I'm seeing, I promise. Please. So, you were cheating. Rick gave a half smile, showing no affection for Molly. Her parents joined in, pleading. Please, let us have another family meeting on another day. No, thank you. Rick replied coldly. I made a mistake in judgment. I won't ask for any compensation, but I don't want to see any of you again. Don't speak to me at work either. That's not fair. Suddenly, Amy stood up and approached Rick, her face twisted with rage, and yelled. Who do you think you are, rejecting such a good match? You should be grateful. Hey, stop it. Molly's father tried to intervene, but Amy shoved him aside and continued to shout at Rick. With this alliance, we could surpass our competitors. Marry my daughter and contribute to our company as the store manager. Stop it, please. Mom, that's enough. Stop. Seeing that the staff couldn't control the situation, the chief staff member approached us with a stern face and advised. Madam, please keep it down as you're disturbing others. Who do you think I am? Don't you dare boss me around. The chief staff retreated with a severe expression. Just as we were trying to calm Amy down, the police arrived and announced. You're under arrest for obstruction of business. What? I didn't do anything. We've received complaints from other guests about the noise. 2 officers restrained the struggling Amy and escorted her to the patrol car, while onlookers gathered. Molly and her father were also taken to the police station for an explanation. Leaving Rick and me to apologize to the restaurant and leave with a bad taste in our mouths. Amy was let off with a strict warning from the restaurant since it was her first offense. However, the incident was widely reported on TV and the internet, and it became well known that she embezzled company funds to spend on a young man. Eventually, the number of customers at their restaurants plummeted, leading to multiple closures, and the company went bankrupt 6 months later. Currently, Molly's father and their relatives are scrambling to raise funds to rebuild the company. Amy lost all trust from her relatives due to the embezzlement and was divorced by her husband. Although she received half the assets in the divorce, most of it went to repaying the embezzled funds, leaving her with little money. She can no longer enter the VIP club she used to frequent as she's now just a poor, elderly woman, and I've heard she has aged considerably. Amy started living with Molly in an apartment, but their relationship soured after the broken engagement, leading to constant fights. Molly, who was reprimanded for aggressively pursuing multiple employees, resigned from her job. She tried working part-time but kept quitting due to the discomfort of people recognizing her, making it hard to find a stable job. Rick, who was initially disheartened by the broken engagement, seemed to move on as he immersed himself in his work. Well liked by his superiors, colleagues, and subordinates. Rick continues to be entrusted with significant projects and is steadily climbing the career ladder. As a mother, though, I believe health is the most important thing. I hope Rick doesn't overwork himself. Although this whole ordeal hurt me as well, I choose to see it positively. We discovered the true nature of the other party before the marriage. I'm patiently waiting for the day Rick introduces me to a lovely young woman, both beautiful and